Welcome back to another episode of The Hard Truth. Thank you so much for watching. I'm wishing every one of you the very best of times this week. Today I want to talk to you about the possibility of sexual assault being excluded from the Idaho 4 case reports, all right? So grab that coffee or a nice cup of tea as we begin our story. Every 68 seconds, there's a sexual assault in the United States, one of the most traumatic things that can happen to a woman. And in most countries, many of the perpetrators are getting away with it. This CBS News report was updated on June 26th, and it says the timing of multiple calls to the cell phone of Kaylee Gonzalez's ex-boyfriend placed the murder sometime after 3 a.m. The coroner said that the victims were likely asleep, some had defensive wounds, and each person was assaulted multiple times. There was no evidence of sexual assault, police said. But then the article goes on to quote them, and it says an investigator said in court documents unsealed on January 5th that a woman who lived at the home awoke to the sound of crying that night to find a masked man in black clothing who walked past her and towards a sliding glass door. To me, crying is more of a reaction to a sexual assault, for a woman at least, than it is to being assaulted with a knife to end your life. And so, if Dylan actually heard crying, I would associate that more with sexual assault. We talked about similarities between the Idaho 4 case and the Darrell Howard case and how the Innocence Project worked to exonerate him from a double homicide case with arson. An eyewitness testified she had seen Mr. Howard just prior to the crimes, just like Dylan's statement that she saw the perp just after the crimes. And much like the Idaho 4 case, sexual assault was not one of the charges in the case against Mr. Howard. Another similarity is that and it's quite eerie to me. The victims were found on top of each other in the same bed, the same as Maddie and Kaylee. And after Mr. Howard was convicted, a rape kit DNA testing showed that a 15-year-old with 35 prior convictions was the one who committed the sexual assault. Remember, we talked about how many street crimes are committed by children or youth because the perpetrators know that the youth typically don't get the same type of time, even for serious crimes like homicide. And last but not least, one perpetrator in this crime turned into multiple perpetrators that committed the crime. And the reason for it was the mother of the victim, the mother owed $8,000 in drug money, to a cartel or, dealer. I had pretty much resolved that the motive for the Idaho 4 crimes was drug related, to where either someone stole the stash out of 1122 King Road because we saw all of the activity that was going on at that house. They had a lookout in the window and whatnot, or one of the parents owed a dealer and couldn't pay, like in the Darrell Howard case. There were a lot of pictures of all the girls at 1122 King Road online, so whoever did it saw them before they committed the crimes. They knew what they looked like, and so I believe the likelihood that somebody was violated prior to the homicides is very high. So we have to think about this in terms of whether any of the Idaho 4 were sexually assaulted, and if they were, how will we know it? Was there ever a rape kit performed on any of them? And were they so abused physically that they couldn't, perform one? I don't know. What do you think about this one? It seems to me if Brian Koberger did this, sexual assault would be one of the only motives that I could think of. If he didn't have to know them to plan such a crime. But if he was anywhere near the university these 12 times, like they say, why don't we have him on surveillance in Moscow? Why are we depending on phone pings to place him in Moscow? There should be some evidence of him in Moscow and also, inside the house. And so all I know is it's really a shame what happened to these kids, and eventually the truth is going to shine through.